Running's a funny sport really, full of quirky individuals and so much information, sometimes conflicting. So how do you cut through the BS and know what really matters? And I won't lie and say that I've got all the answers, I try weird things too. But after a lifetime of running and 20 years as a coach, I think I can take each aspect of running, like gear, recovery, diet, strength, supplements, etc., and cut out about 95% of the BS from each of them, honing in on what's really important for you and your running. And if we add value, then please at least consider subscribing to the channel because it helps us to help more people. Let's start with shoes.
I like that.
Over probably the last 5 years or so, super shoes have taken over the market and there are a huge amount of benefits to wearing them, certainly faster race times, with a caveat. Mary, this is the perfect example. What are the trainers that you use to run your marathons in?
I've worn these beauties for my last 5 marathons, not this exact pair.
What are they?
They are the Saucony Endorphin Pro 3s.
Which is curious because you do have Alpha Flies, which in theory are way more expensive, supposed to be faster, so why don't you use them?
Well, these beauties, I did wear for some races, but actually I probably wasn't faster in them because I simply wasn't that comfortable and I did get really bad blisters, which can really hamper your race. So for me, the most important thing in a marathon shoe is comfort.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, you see. Comfort trumps flash any day of the week. These are the shoes that I race in because I'm comfortable in them. I absolutely wouldn't sacrifice my race if I wasn't, because I'll tell you what, if you're uncomfortable, certainly in a marathon, your time's going to fall off way quicker than if you were comfortable in maybe not even a pair of super shoes. And here's the thing, I wouldn't do many of my sessions in super shoes anyway, certainly none of my easy runs. I don't really do my long runs in super shoes. But if you pinned me to it, if you told me I could only wear one pair of shoes ever again for my running, I'm going here. These are the Asics Gel Nimbus. They are not super shoes. However, they are my most comfortable pair of shoes that I own, and that you cannot put a price on. In fact, I did London in 2:55 wearing a pair of Gym Nimbus. I did London in 2:55 wearing a pair of Gel Nimbus. So if you had to cut out 95% of the BS in shoes, the number one factor that you're looking for is comfort over everything, because it will equal speed in the long term. But I will say, it is obviously the golden goose if you are super comfortable in super shoes. Luckily, these I am really comfortable running a marathon in. Let's talk strength for a second, and I'm under no illusion I need to stay in my lane. I'm not a personal trainer. I have worked out in gyms all of my life, but I know to stay in my lane, and usually I would default to someone that knows a lot more than I do. However, over the last few years, I've picked up a few things that I think might help you when it comes to your strength training. And the first one is that the high rep range. So if you are going into the gym and you're doing workouts that include you lifting weights for maybe 10 to 15 repetitions, especially on the legs, you already do that out on the road. What you actually need to do is you need to expose your body to different stimulus. And that's where the low rep range and heavier weights come in. However, under caution, you don't just go into the gym and lift something for 3 reps and really heavy. That would be stupid. What you can do is you can build your way down to the lower rep range, offering your body a different stimulus to the stimulus it gets out on the roads. That's the key when it comes to being in the gym. And whilst an element of instability is quite good, and that usually means free weights, I'm certainly not saying stand on a Bosu ball, stand on bands. It's some of the stuff I see out there is quite frankly for me is pretty terrifying. I'm not even comfortable 100% recommending compound movements, because if you're doing heavy weights on a deadlift or a squat with poor technique, that's a quick way to get injured as well. I'm not ruling out compound, but you probably need someone to help you. You probably need someone to be there on your journey. So I guess the advice that I am giving is explore a way that you can lift a little bit heavier with lower reps and doing it safely. And that's certainly, if you have no experience, not going to be on your own, but it is the way to add that different stimulus to yourself from the gym. And by the way, this video is going to be jumping all over the place because when we started it, we were stuck in Vietnam, not knowing if we were going to get back at any point during the week because we were waiting for our visa to be okayed, and then we got the call and flew back. So we're going to be jumping between Vietnam and Thailand and all over the shop. Just, I want to be clear.
Look, none of this is exactly rocket surgery. Take for example this run that we're on now. Super easy run, recovery week run, and that makes up, I would say, 85%, 80%, 75% in some weeks. It changes, but that's like our meat and drink. That's what we do. I can talk to the camera pretty easily. I'm not out of breath. Feels very easy. We do that, and then about once a week we run faster. We run really fast. So if you're in any doubt about training and you've got too many things floating around in your head, just run a lot slow like this and have a chat, and run a little bit fast, and that's as simple as it needs to be for marathon training. It really doesn't need to be overcomplicated. I will say fast for us is not continuous fast, because that's quite heavy on the body. We do our fast sessions in intervals, and they change throughout what we're training for, really. Sometimes it's time-based, sometimes it's distant-based, but never really over 5 minutes per interval.
Supplements, also a really terrifying area for us, because there's a lot of potential to spend a lot of money on things like mushroom dust and pixie juice. Like, there's a ton out there, and there's a lot of people out there telling you that what they're selling is good, right?
Yeah.
But what does the science say? Did you know that the probably most studied supplement of all time is creatine? And there is very little out there to show that there are any negative side effects other than a short-term weight gain when you start taking creatine. It is hugely beneficial for you. There's been studies, there's been meta-studies, there's been all sorts, and the benefits are so numerous. We're actually relatively new to the creatine game, because I think what used to happen is you hear creatine, you think the bodybuilder.
Yeah, and I think the water retention weight gain put me off as well, but I'm all for it.
And you know, we're not here to recommend a brand. I'm purposely not talking about the specific brand, because, you know, do your own research, find the thing that works for you in your country. But the studies have proven time and time again in the hugest of numbers that creatine is massively beneficial for you, for your life and for your training. Close runner-up, omega-3 fish oils as well, which we also take, electrolytes, vitamin D. But if you were telling me I could only take 1 or 2 supplements for the rest of my life, it's gonna be creatine, it's gonna be omega-3 fish oils, that's it. All the rest, the pixie dust, the mushrooms, cannabis, strip it back, creatine, omega-3 fish oil. This is not a fish drink.
Tell me what the first thing you notice about this run is. Can you see if I've got a heart rate monitor on? I do not. I still have a watch on though, I'm not a psychopath. Because here's the thing when it comes to running, and especially if you are a newer runner, you can get bogged down with all the potential metrics that you should focus on. VO2 max you'll probably hear, lactate threshold you'll probably hear, heart rate you'll probably hear. And whilst all of them do serve a purpose at certain points in your training, there really is, there's really no need to get bogged down in them. Honestly, look at the world's top marathon runners. If you watch the races, so many of them don't even wear a watch. And you might think, well, why? Because they've dialed in on feel. And you don't just get good at running by feel overnight. It's a process that takes many years. But the point I'm trying to make is that it can be demotivating when your watch tells you that you're detraining, or that the run wasn't productive, or that you weren't in the right heart rate zone. And honestly, getting bogged down by metrics can feel like that sometimes. So if you said to me I would have to cut out all of these metrics except for one, pick one where you could use to learn to get good at running on feel eventually, every day of the week, I'm gonna pick heart rate, because heart rate is so pure. You don't have to test that in a lab, and it tells you what's going on the inside. And eventually you run with heart rate and pace and link up feel. You then, in theory, won't need to know your heart rate or even pace anymore. You can just, in a race, almost feel that right level to be running at.
Diet, nutrition, let's just cut through the rubbish, just get started. Now, I'm not saying here in this point that you have to follow exactly what I do. This is your body. What I am saying is it's your chance to experiment to a certain degree to see what works and what doesn't. But all I know is 2 things really. Diets where you restrict something from your diet long term Probably great for weight loss, not necessarily great for training. And diets where you restrict carbs, and I'm not saying you have to eat a lot of carbs, I'm saying where you restrict carbs out of the diet, think paleo, low carb, high fat, no carb, high fat, intermittent fasting even. These are areas where the evidence is pretty clear that you need carbs for fueling. So if you want to cut through all of the guff when it comes to diet, all I would say is keep a carb-centered, not carb-heavy diet in your mind, because you're gonna need it, especially if you're training for the longer distances. I mean, I have made videos, like full videos on diet completely, and especially for endurance runners, so I'm not gonna go into too much detail right here. I'll link one of those videos at the end of this video for you to watch. I'm following the evidence, and I'm following not only the scientific evidence, but I'm following the evidence when you listen and when you look at the highest level athletes in marathon running, in half marathon running. What do they eat? How do they eat? Comes back to this.
There are so many ways to train, it can honestly make your head spin. Different training models, different structures, and obviously they do all work for people, otherwise they wouldn't exist. But finding out what works for you, if any, is the key. And we could all do a lot worse than following one of the greatest endurance runners of all time's advice, Courtney Dauwalter.
So every day I do wake up, and after drinking coffee, I'll figure out what I'm doing that day. There's no there's no plan going into a week what the days might hold.
That's right. Courtney is arguably the greatest female ultra-endurance athlete of all time and doesn't really even have a structure. She manages to blend high-level performance with low-pressure training, and that is rare. But there's a message here. If some of the best don't take it too seriously, why should we? Especially if your training often feels pressurized to you. If it doesn't, you're probably okay. And you can go one further when it comes to racing. Often we find ourselves in big marathon blocks where we forego something fun race-wise because it just doesn't fit our schedule. Well, I'm a big fan of at least taking cycles off and just doing any race that you want. Why train so hard and not have the fun? Even within our structured marathon training, this one, for example, was our long run for the week. So don't get too hung up on one training method or one race. The truth is, if you still went out there and raced when you wanted, you'd still do just fine. And this last one, I consider myself somewhat of an expert in, and I'm going to save you a bunch of time by very easily cutting out 95% of the BS in this realm, and it's recovery. You see, I've tried everything. We've done ice baths, we've done leg compressors, we've done massage guns, we've done stretching, we've done dry needling, acupuncture, physiotherapy, foam rolling, you name it, we've done it. And I can categorically tell you now there is something that sits above all else when it comes to recovery tools. And I'm telling you this, if doctors could prescribe this, they 100% would. Have you realized what it is? Sleep. Stop the stubbornness. Sleep is the #1 tool for recovery. It's the thing that is going to get you where you need to be in terms of absorbing your training, but also recovering from your training that you can go again. Stop being stubborn. So many people get revenge bedtime procrastination. It's ridiculous. If you just go to sleep at a good time and get your sleep need, which by the way, usually is determined by if you wake up in the morning and you're still tired, you haven't had enough sleep, then you're going to breeze through your training, you're going to breeze through your life. The people that struggle generally are the ones that don't prioritize sleep above all. Stop buying stuff. It's free. If you don't prioritize sleep, it's time to. Because I am about to go to sleep now, so that's my priority. So hopefully you found value in this video, and if you did, then consider subscribing to the channel. But I do know you're also going to really enjoy this video, where I looked at 2025's most viral running products and tried to work out what is actually worth it, and obviously, once again, what's not. And the second video I've linked here is the one that I spoke about in this video, which was the one I made with Matt Fitzgerald about the endurance diet. The best diet worldwide, it's been found for endurance athletes. I think you're going to really enjoy it. Thanks for watching. See you soon.